Oh, hey there. Quick question for you. Do you believe in science or science? Well, here to help you answer that ridiculous hook of a question is yours truly. Or maybe you're just leaving. I don't know. Whatever you want to do is fine with me. Anyway, what did I mean by do you believe in science or science? Because that's the same word, buddy. And yes, I'm very aware of the fact that it's the same word, but the fact is that it is confusing either way. So, there's a few kinds of science, but that's not really what we're doing. We're doing something entirely different. Science or science. I should probably start explaining now before you leave. Anyway, the first kind of science is, the science you usually think of, like scientific method. And the second kind would be science philosophy. Science philosophy, for example, would be kind of like materialism, where there's not really anything else that exists that science can't explain. And I'm sure you've heard of the scientific method, like observation and all that kind of stuff. Both of those can be found in one of these extremely giant 20-pound books that they make you buy for school and then you barely use. Well, the problem here is that the two get kind of substituted for each other. So, like, if you would say trust, like, science, that would be, like, trusting, like, science philosophy of, like, the fact that, from goo to you by way of the zoo. I have no clue who said that, but I absolutely love it. So, you can't get confused when you're saying, like, it's unscientific to think that things could be created, because what type of science are you talking about? Because of course creation doesn't fit into science philosophy, but it does fit into the scientific method, sort of. And here's another distinction I need to make. It doesn't contradict with the scientific method, and it makes sense that the scientific method works because of creation, but the scientific method can't tell you that there is creation. It can point a lot of good evidence towards it, but it can't tell you that, because there's another multiple kinds of science problem that we're dealing with. See, whether you believe in the fact that the world has always existed, which is definitely unscientific because it just doesn't work that way, but whether you believe that, or evolution, or creation, or any other amount of things, that isn't strictly science. It's historical science, or history science. That means that you can't just do science in order to get to that conclusion. You have to have something in your head before you start getting there. And that something is kind of like a paradigm, which is a very fancy word for basically just a worldview. So you have to have some sort of starting point in order to do historical science. Because let's say I didn't have a starting point, I would look at all these rocks and be like, I don't know what I'm doing, and I would walk away because I don't care. But if I cared so much about the fact that it is evolution, then I would try and find ways that it fit into evolution's story. So it's kind of a little bit of both. But just because you have to start with something in order to get somewhere means you have to start with the right thing. And everything that follows should line up with that. And then if it doesn't, then we have a problem. So quick summary, if someone tells you that creation is unscientific, that's incorrect. It just means that it doesn't fit into science philosophy. And there's also two different kinds of science. There's like science, where you can observe it, repeat it, and test it. And then there's historical science, where you have to come into it with like your own way of thinking first. Like science, you could just walk in and I could be like, that's grass over there. And you'd be like, oh yes, I agree with you. That is, in fact, grass. Now, where the grass comes from, that is more historical science. If you want to say, like, when... Rude. Anyway, if you want to say, like, when grass came into existence, that's, like, historical science. So, there's your lesson for today. My hair is, like, all over the place, and there's trucks behind me. So, I think I'm going to stop. Bye!